A side, B side, what side are you on?
Well, hello, Adam. Welcome back.
Hello, Brooke. How are you doing today?
I'm good. In case you didn't know, in case you just stumbled upon it, it is the A Side B Side podcast. I'm Brooke Summers.
I'm Adam Weingarten. I almost said Adam Winter because it's only been 15 years since we used that opening.
Oh my gosh. If you didn't know, if you're brand new to this, Adam and I have been friends for, oh my gosh, almost 20 years.
Yeah, a long time.
Met doing radio together. Adam was my very first morning show co-host.
She's had many better ones since then, but for some reason came back to doing a podcast with me because she's like, you know what's fun to do? Go back to the beginning.
So what's going on with you this week?
It has been a very weird roller coaster of a weather week up here in Minnesota, which means it's March or April. And like Monday, it was 65 degrees and beautiful. Sunday was a beautiful day in the 50s. And, you know, one of my jobs, I work at a restaurant as well. And so we were like, had people wanted to sit outside and it's like, oh man, spring is coming. And then like the official first day of spring was a couple days ago. And now today it's snowing.
Yeah, I can relate. It's not as cold here, but it is snowing.
And it's amazing, like when it switches like that, how just like deflating it feels.
I know.
At least for me.
It was like 80 here over the weekend. And then today it's snowing. And it's like, come on. And then, of course, if you're like me, you wake up every day and you're like, am I sick? Or is this, which of course it's just sickness. Yeah.
Everything is defrosting up here, which means that all the germs and smells and rotting leaves that have been trapped under ice for 6 months are all coming back out. So yeah, it feels like everybody's got a little bit of a sniffle or a cough or a scratchy throat. And now, of course, we're in that age when you sneeze or you cough and everybody kind of looks at you sideways.
So right, because everybody's still like, is this the Rona? And you're like, it's not the Rona.
Yeah. Or is this a new variant? Is it coming back again? Because we're all just like, we have PTSD at this point, understandably.
So a couple of things real fast. So I think I told you a little bit about this. I had the opportunity to go check out this group called the George Hinecliffe Ukulele Orchestra. Look them up on YouTube. It's I totally almost didn't go to the performance because I was like, oh, that sounds silly, and they were amazing. So if you ever have the opportunity, they are in your area, 100% go check them out. You definitely should.
I can see how, like, when you say the name, it's like, oh, that sounds like a gimmick. Like, yeah. How interesting is this going to be? Is this going to be like something that is cool for 5 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, I've had enough, but.
No, it was a very cool show. I didn't realize ukuleles came in different sizes.
Yeah, I guess I didn't either. I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's just a guitar, but.
Right. But they've got like little baby ones. They've got the regular size ones, a little bit bigger. And so I actually went because my daughter played for a little bit. My youngest played for a little bit in high school. And I was like, oh, we should go to this together. She had plans. I still went. And I'm very glad I did. And then a couple of shows that I watched this week. So did I tell you about Fresh on Hulu?
No.
Very weird show. Very weird. It's got Sebastian Stan and...
Oh, yeah. I've seen the previews, but I don't understand what it's about.
So basically, without like completely and totally giving it away, Sebastian Stan and this new actress, I've never seen her in anything before, but now she's got another weird kind of movie coming out, Daisy Edgar Jones.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if she's like related to Tommy Lee Jones. No, she's from London. Anyway, so they're a couple. They meet in a grocery store. They start dating, and he has a very strange side hustle.
Yeah, because it almost has a vibe like 50 Shades or You, so it feels very creepy.
It is very creepy. It's not scary like in the like something's coming to get you, haunt you type of a thing. It's very thrillerish, very like, what in the world is going on? Is this really happening? Like, but I don't want to tell you more and give it away.
No, that's fair. I mean, we do a lot of spoilers on this podcast,
but this is new, so I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're cool spoiling 30-year-old shows. Yeah.
Right. So IMDb says I'll give you IMDb. That way you can't be mad at me. You can be mad at IMDb. It says fair. The horrors of modern dating seen through one young woman's defiant battle to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites.
See, like when it's phrased like that, you think, okay, is this just like a 50 Shades knockoff type of thing?
Right.
And I think that's maybe what they want you to think, you know?
So that is something it was very good. Like, it was really good. It was just really weird. I was like, afterwards, I was like, I'm never going on a date again. But that's pretty much how I feel all the time anyway. So,
it's just cool to see, like, he's starting to show up in a lot of stuff, Sebastian Stan, which I think is really cool.
Because something else I'm watching with him is Pam and Tommy. And there is a trend on TikTok, and even my mom and I were just talking about this because I was like, you watch this? There's a trend on TikTok to go to the second episode about 21 minutes in and blind react.
Oh, okay.
Because nope, I'm not even going to tell you. You just have to watch it, but your mouth will drop. You'll be like, what is happening here?
Yeah, and only age appropriate people only, please.
Yes, please. Do not. This is not a family friendly show. It is about Pam Anderson and Tommy Lee, so you can imagine what they get into. Seth Rogen is also in it, and
is what's his name? Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec.
Yes, he has a big part in it.
Gosh, I can't remember his actual name. Something Offerman.
Nick Offerman. No, yeah. Yes. I was gonna say Ron Offerman, but it's Ron Swanson.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it would make more sense if it was Ron Offerman.
So yes, that was, like I said, it sheds a light on Tommy Lee where you're like, you're a jerk.
Yeah.
Which I think we all knew that, anyway.
And Sebastian Stan also showed up. He played a supporting role in that movie that was in the theaters for like a hot minute, but it was the 355. It was like the female spies, assassins all have to work together for something. And it had like Jessica Chastain but it was like literally in the theaters for
Penelope Cruz.
Yeah, Diane Kruger. It's like this. Yeah. It was kind of supposed to be like an action thing, I guess. And then it just didn't evidently hit.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to find where I can watch that because I really like me some Sebastian Stan. Oh, Lupita Nyong'o is also in it.
Yeah, I mean, it has a great cast, but it seemed like they released it, and then I've already seen it's like on some streaming service already. Yeah, it came out January 7th, and you could not find it in the movie theaters anymore. I don't think you could find it in most movie theaters after January 14th. Yeah, you could already watch it. It's already available to rent from Amazon Prime, and we are just over 2 months from its release date, which that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. But so I'm glad to see him popping up because he really is a good actor, and he completely embodies these roles. But I also hear he's a pretty cool dude, like in real life. So
I mean, he doesn't return my texts anymore. So
what a bastard.
It happens. Oh, so rough.
Man.
Just randomly texting numbers. Is this Sebastian Stan?
Oh man, what about you? Watch anything good?
No, like I said, I've been a lot of outside time because it was nice this last week, and I had the pleasure of going to be able to see my oldest perform some scenes for the directing class this week, and that was really cool. So I've not spent much time in front of a TV screen in the last few days. I mean, besides there was basketball because the basketball tournament was back, and then Formula
Oh
One
yeah.
season has launched again. And if you have not gotten into Formula One because of Netflix's Drive to Survive, and you are interested, just check out that series. It's sort of a behind the scenes documentary series about what happens the previous year. And I found it the first like this time 2 years ago during the first shutdown, and have become a huge Formula One fan because of it. So it's a lot of fun. And that season just started, in this weekend's race. Sunday morning was packed full of drama and surprises and intensity. So it's been very interesting. That I feel like is one of my favorite shows, and it's just a car race.
Wow. Okay.
But there's so much that I mean, there's only 20 cars and there's 10 teams. So it's a lot easier to get into because you know who everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
And then each season they're moving around, and it's usually like the same like 15 to 20 people with like every one or two new people each year. So like you don't get too confused on the cast changes and stuff. And it's been really interesting. So yeah, Drive to Survive. It's got 4 seasons. I rewatched that last week before the first F1 race of the weekend, which was amazing.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm trying to think, is there any big news that has happened in the last week since we have spoken?
We are doing Senate confirmation hearings for the next Supreme Court justice. Yeah.
Yes.
And hopefully
she's amazing.
She has such patience.
Oh my gosh. I saw a TikTok say, as these bottles of expired mayonnaise grill her. And I was like, yeah.
There was somebody was using visual aids. I think it was yesterday or Monday, but I don't know who decided the colors to put on the visual aids because it was illegible. Like you couldn't read it. It was like black writing on dark red. So the camera would pan to it and would just be like, well, I can't read anything on that screen. So I was like, come on, guys. Have you ever seen black on red anywhere?
Yeah. I'm really hoping that it continues to go, and she is confirmed. Ketanji Brown Jackson, not only an amazing woman, she's got this gorgeous family. She's done some really amazing things. So,
and you don't get to this stage unless you are eminently qualified, right? Like you just don't. And so it's just amazing to see. I think this is the most. I don't know. It feels like we've had one of these confirmation hearings every year for like 3 years, which we have. And I think people are, because this used to be like a once a decade, thing. We'd all kind of forget about it. And now everyone's like, man, this is what we do every time. Yeesh. Maybe there's a better way to do this.
You know what I think is interesting, and probably not as well, it's very ill-timed, but I'm sure he planned it this way. So Ketanji Brown Jackson is married, like I mentioned, and she is an African-American woman. Her husband is white. And then did you see that Senator Mike Braun from Indiana just came out and made comments about how he wishes that the Supreme Court had not legalized interracial marriage, and that they had left it up to the states, and that if the states wished, they could ban it on their own.
Wow.
I don't know if the timing is coincidental or if that was some kind of dig at Ketanji, but yeah,
I don't know. I mean, at this level of political discourse and the coverage that they get, and these people are all operators. I think it would be highly unusual for anything to be accidental, except for like when somebody mispronounces a word or doesn't know how to spell potato or something like that. No one's doing that stuff by plan. But something like this, there's no way that it's an accident or coincidental.
I don't think it is either. I think it was completely, of course, now he's trying to like walk back those comments, but I really think it was a dig at not just her, but I mean, I think that it was timed that way intentionally.
And what an antiquated and completely, I mean, this is not an argument that anyone's having anymore.
Right.
It's not. It's like being like, you know what? I don't know about these horseless carriages. Horses have always been good enough for me and my family. We figured out how to get from point A to point B because they had Bessie pulling the wagon. These horseless carriages may be a bad thing for the country. Like, sir, the car came out 100 years ago. It's kind of a settled issue now. So, no one calls them horseless carriages anymore.
I can't believe that this man is bringing this issue up 55 years after the fact. Loving versus Virginia was in 1967.
And it's amazing that it was only that long ago.
I know. You would think it was, yeah.
The amount of change that has happened in the last 100 years is kind of amazing. I can only imagine like what we're going to be doing in the next 100.
Gosh.
And will we still be having movies about people releasing sex tapes? I'm guessing yes.
Probably. Oh man. Aside from this major confirmation that will impact the country, any other news?
I don't think so. I mean, then again, I don't get the newspaper like I used to, so I'm sure I'm missing some stuff. But it seemed like we've had there's a war going on.
Oh well, yes.
Still, doesn't look like that's going to end anytime soon. Even though no one reports are that there's no gas or none of the soldiers have food, and we're basically just having rock fights now. So hopefully they'll just run out of things to throw at each other.
So Vladimir Zelensky is, of course, all over TikTok, and women are all about some Vladimir. And
not just women. I follow the guy on Instagram because honestly, he posts every single day, and it's like a verifiable source of information. And I love his passive aggressive, like sort of just like not calling people out, but just being like he'd get done. It'd be, here's a shot of him like talking on the phone, and he's like, talked with, such and such premiere. Thank them for their support here. Talked about some of the things we're trying to do here. It was like, basically just giving us a breakdown so they can't be like, oh, no, we never talked about that. It's like, no, Dude, it's on Insta.
Yeah, it's on Instagram, man.
It's on Insta. I put it out there like 30 seconds after we were done. So, everybody knows that we talked, just,
Yeah, but there's a show. So before he became president of Ukraine, he was actually a comedian.
Yeah, it's like if we had elected Jerry Seinfeld in 2004.
Right. And I believe it's Netflix has added his show back onto their streaming service, or has added his show to the streaming
What's
service.
the name of Man of the People or something?
Servant of the People.
I was so close.
Servant of the People. But yes, it is now streaming on Netflix. So you can watch that on Netflix. And that is something that I intend to do.
Yeah, it's when you just Google it, you just watch it on Google too, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, it says go to Netflix. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Google made me click through 4 things.
You lied, Google. But
so they got 3 pages worth of ads out of me because I was like, oh, okay, click.
But yeah. All right. So I think that's all we got.
Yeah, that's all. This is episode 85.
Yep.
Which means that you go first.
It is I.
Okay. Because I did have one other thing, but it ties directly in with the A side, so I'm waiting for the A side.
Okay. All right. So this week we are going to talk about Charles Frederick Albright, also known as, Adam, you're going to love this.
Oh boy.
The eyeball killer. The eyeball killer. Yeah. Also known as the Dallas Slasher and the Dallas Ripper.
See, I feel like it doesn't mean that he kills eyeballs.
Can you kill an eyeball?
I don't know. Maybe a mascot.
Okay. So
somebody's visiting the optometrist and there's a big eyeball with hands and feet being like, welcome.
So Charles Frederick Albright was born in Amarillo, Texas. on August 10th of 1933. He was given up for adoption as a baby, and he was subsequently adopted from an orphanage by Dell and Fred Albright. His adoptive mother was a school teacher, and she was pretty strict, pretty overprotective. She also helped him in his education, again, being a school teacher, and he was able to skip 2 grades, which I skipped a grade in kindergarten. I didn't go to kindergarten, so.
I skipped a lot of classes in college.
Charles also had an aunt that when she would come around, she'd give him.
So growing up in Buffalo, did you say aunt or did you say aunt?
Aunt.
When I was a kid in Nebraska, we said aunt. And then I moved to Minnesota and kids made fun of me, so I had to say aunt.
Oh, is it aunt in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We fancy. Come on.
Evidently. I was like, she's not British.
So his aunt would come around and she'd give him dolls and she would force him to wear dresses. And
that took a turn.
I'm sure that plays into his criminal psychology in some way.
I mean, forcing someone to wear anything is not good.
Yes. So Charles was a very difficult child. He got his first gun as a teenager, which I am not surprised about in Texas, to be honest with you. If you had said, I don't know, New York, maybe like in the city, but I mean, having lived in Kentucky and knowing kids that have guns at like 10.
A lot of people go hunting. Sometimes it's for protection on the, when you're in a more rural area, just animals. And I just assume bears are wandering around the woods.
Texas? Are there bears in Texas?
I would assume big ones. Everything's bigger in Texas.
Everything is. So as a teenager, like I mentioned, he got his first gun, which he used to kill small animals such as rabbits and squirrels.
For stew.
As just a pastime. That was just a pastime. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Always a great sign.
Uh-huh. So remember the McDonald triad? We talked about this. It's the 3 things that kind of, they use these 3 things to possibly determine if someone's going to become a serial killer.
Yeah, there are instances that tend to happen in the lot of the background of a serial killer.
Right. And one of those things is the killing and torturing of small animals. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we see where we're headed with this. So Dell, Charles's mom, would also help him because he had an interest in taxidermy. So she would help him stuff the animals that he killed. She encouraged this, but she wasn't able to afford the glass eyes that they use when you stuff an animal. So she would she would have him use buttons instead.
Oh, so now it's just like the Velveteen Rabbit.
Creepy. Yes.
Oh yeah, no, there was just a weird room in their house with all of these poorly taxidermied animals with button eyes.
Yeah.
Not gonna sleep tonight.
Some psychologists later would say that the use of the buttons instead of the glass eyes also played a part in forming his criminal pathology. Again, remember his name, the Eyeball Killer. At the age of 13, he was already into petty crimes. He was arrested for aggravated assault. At the age of 15, he graduated from high school and enrolled at North Texas University. Remember, he skipped 2 grades because you're like, wait, 15. He skipped 2 grades. Yeah, so
he accelerated.
Mm-hmm. So then, while at North Texas University, he expressed an interest in training as a medical doctor and a surgeon. So he starts taking pre-med classes, but he doesn't complete the classes. Charles turns 16 and police catch him with some stolen petty cash, about $380 worth, along with 2 handguns and a rifle. So again, he is arrested, he's convicted, and he spends about a year in prison.
at
I
the age
should
of
at the
16.
age
So
of
yeah,
16. Yeah. I should also note that one of the things that his mom did was, aside from being a teacher, she also had a real estate business and he would help her with that as well.
oh, interesting.
So after his release from jail or from prison, he begins attending Arkansas State Teachers College and he majored in pre-med studies. He was really active in campus life. He was a member of several clubs. He excelled in his studies. He even learned some new languages. He was also actively stealing during this time.
Oh,
Yeah. During his freshman year, he broke into a young woman's dorm room and he stole nude photos of her.
oh,
Once he cut the eyes of a friend's ex out of photos and put them on photos of another girl on his wall. So we see the whole eyeball thing.
some foreshadowing happening.
Mm-hmm.
This. There's a longing panning shot, and then the music gets a little creepy.
Oh, somehow he was able to manipulate a young woman named Betty Nestor into giving him the keys to like the campus. Somehow she was able to have keys for like the entire campus, and
Probably the world's largest key ring. Like 700 keys on it. We've all seen the guy walking around campus.
you knew she was coming. You heard her like
Yeah,
a block away.
Yeah.
So he convinces Betty to give him the keys. He and Betty actually end up getting married. He's 20 years old, and he and Betty end up getting married just after Christmas. So then Charles takes these keys that he got from Betty. He breaks into an office on campus, and he steals some equipment. So he's found with these stolen items. He's expelled from college, but he's not prosecuted. He also had a bunch of odd jobs during this time. Like he was a bullfighter for a while. He was a baseball manufacturer and apparently a hairstylist at some point.
The jack of all trades.
Seriously, a jack of all trades. So now we've got Charles, who is kicked off of like basically another campus, you know? So in 1961, we see our I'm not going to call him our friend because he's not. Charles arrested again for receiving and concealing stolen goods.
I think if this was Criminal Minds, we would call him the unsub.
Yes, there you go. Look at you go. Mm-hmm. He does this really crazy thing where he forges really pristine credentials from Arkansas State Teachers College, and he uses them to become a teacher.
Interesting.
Well, he gets caught while teaching at a high school, and he's placed on probation. So again, we see him get caught but not prosecuted.
Yeah. I mean, the only time that this guy spent time in jail was when he was 16.
Right.
Every other time he gets caught but not charged, or caught in probation. He's like, come on.
Yeah. In 1965, Charles and his wife, Betty, separate. They don't divorce for another 10 years until 1975.
I mean, hey, the divorce is complicated.
In the interim, he's caught stealing again. He steals hundreds of dollars worth of merchandise from a hardware store. This time, he is arrested. He is convicted. He gets a 2-year prison sentence, but he only serves about 6 months worth of that sentence before being released. So during this time, he begins to befriend and gain the trust of his neighbors. He's even asked by local residents to babysit their children.
Oy vey.
So following the death of his adoptive mother in 1981, he's visiting some friends and his birth mother. And during the visit of his friends, things go real sideways and he molests his friend's 14-year-old daughter. Fortunately, he is caught. He's prosecuted. He pleads guilty, but he gets probation.
Yeah, because we had him go to jail for a little bit there, but we're back to the probation stuff.
Yeah. He later claims that he was innocent, but he pled guilty because he wanted to avoid a hassle. No, you jackass, you did it, and you got caught.
Sounds like a bigger hassle to go to jail, but whatever, or
Yeah.
plead guilty. That sounds like a pretty big hassle. So
In 1984, he applies to be a leader of the Boy Scouts of America. He gets rejected.
well, that's what we call good luck
Yeah.
for the
Ugh.
kids, or
Ugh.
bullet dodged, I think.
Yes, 100%. So he starts dating a woman named Mary White sometime after his separation and divorce. They date for a few years. They break it off. His father passes away in 1986, and he inherits about $100,000. Shortly after, in 1986, he meets a woman named Dixie. He invites Dixie to live with them. Soon, she's paying the bills and supporting him. He's delivering newspapers early in the evening. He becomes a paper boy.
At the age of
Whatever, in 86, and he was born in 33. So, and he's his 50s, like
50s.
53.
I mean, you can always go after your dream jobs, I guess.
So he becomes a paper boy, and he's delivering papers in the early morning, and then he decides to start visiting sex workers, and he's able to do this without Dixie becoming suspicious.
She doesn't understand why it takes so long to deliver those papers, but
so we meet this first victim of his in 1990. Her name is Mary Lou Pratt. She's a Caucasian sex worker. She's well known in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas. So Mary Lou Pratt is found dead, only wearing a t-shirt and a bra. She'd been shot in the back of the head with a .44 caliber gun, and she was badly beaten. The medical examiner reports that the killer had removed both of her eyes with surgical precision and had taken them. He would later come to police attention when a woman tips off police saying that Charles had an obsession with knives and eyes. Yeah. So a few months later, February 10th of 1991, Susan Beth Peterson, another sex worker, Caucasian, was found on the same street as Mary Pratt was, just outside of the city limits of Dallas, near the DeSoto city limits. So Susan Beth was found nearly nude. She'd been shot 3 times. She'd been shot in the top of her head, in her left breast, and in the back of her head. So guess what the medical examiner discovered when he examined Susan?
I don't think this is a spoiler. I'm guessing there was something gone from her head area, probably her eyes.
Yes. He found that both of her eyes had been removed. So now police realize, okay, we've got a repeater on our hands.
Well, that's a new term. I don't know if we've ever had
repeater
use like an interim term. Like, we're not ready to say serial,
right?
But this is more than one. So this is like the repeater. Okay.
So now we've got the next victim. Fast forward exactly 1 month, March 10th of 1991. Shirley Williams, another sex worker, African American, she was found dead laying near an elementary school. A waitress actually stumbled upon Shirley's nude body. Shirley had been propped up against a curb. And just like the previous 2 victims, her eyes had been removed. So, Shirley had facial bruises, a broken nose, and she had been shot through the top of her head. Medical examiner, of course, like I said, when he's examining her, he opens her eyelids and finds that, well, her eyes are missing.
That's just surgical precision. So the eyelids were closed and you wouldn't know.
Right.
That's extra creepy.
So pretty soon, a number of sex workers start reporting assaults by Charles. So police are able to use this information and they're able to get a search warrant. They go to Charles's house, and upon their search, they find an SW-44 Magnum revolver, several X-Acto knives, and a red condom. Now, he's not, his wife is in menopause, so they wouldn't have been using them. Apparently, he's broken up with his girlfriend. So, they're like, and the color red. Like, how many people buy red condoms? I'm sure there's some. I'm not knocking your love of red condoms, but it's not like the average purchase.
It seems a little extra.
So they also, upon searching his house, find books about serial killers, Nazi literature, and dolls with no eyes.
Oh,
Well, they test the ballistics on the bullets that were used in the victims against the bullets in Charles's gun. And they find that the gun that was in his home were not a match for the murders of Mary Lou Pratt and Shirley Williams. Also, investigators weren't able to find like any bloody clothing or shoes or anything. But what they did find was underwear and socks soaking in bleach. That's a bit suspicious.
yeah. Like, why would you? I mean, if he's gotten rid of everything else, like there's no bloody clothes, there's no clothes that's soaking in bleach. But he was like, no, I'm going to keep the underwear.
Right.
This is my good pair.
So, when they do a search, they pretty much take everything. And one of the other items that they took was a vacuum. So, because fibers. So inside the vacuum, they find hair fibers that are in fact a match to his last victim, Shirley Williams. Now, we weren't able to do DNA testing. They were able to do like analysis, and it was a match. So it appears that like I said, it appears that it's a match, but they weren't able to do DNA testing.
Because it has to have like the actual skin cuticle connector part to test. Yes. That's what I have the TV. That's what the TV's taught.
And it wasn't available yet in the early 90s. Not like it is now.
Also, 30 years ago.
What they also did was they took hair from Charles, and that hair matched hair that was found on the victim, Shirley Williams.
Ah.
So he's arrested March 23rd of 1991, and he's charged with 3 counts of murder. His trial, I'm actually surprised at how quickly his trial began, because it was just in December. We've seen cases that drag on forever.
Yeah.
So his trial begins December 13th of 1991, and most of the evidence was circumstantial. Now, on the body of Shirley Williams, they did also find, or near the body of Shirley Williams, they did also find a red condom. Remember,
circumstantial in that, it doesn't prove that there's a connection, but it's very suspicious.
Right. We also have the hairs that were found on Shirley Williams and in his vacuum. So it takes about 5 days for the jury to deliberate, or excuse me, the whole trial takes about 5 days. And on December 18th of 1991, the jury deliberates and they find him guilty, but only of one of the murders. They find him guilty of the murder of Shirley Williams, the African-American sex worker, which, one, it sucks he wasn't found guilty on all 3 charges. But 2, can I say the fact that he was found guilty of the African-American sex worker as opposed to the 2 Caucasian sex workers is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
That's a white male.
Not normally how it happens.
Exactly. In a lot of cases we have seen and discussed, it would have been the other way around.
Yeah. And we've talked about certain individuals have chosen marginalized populations to terrorize because they're less likely to get caught because it's less investigated.
Exactly.
So this flies right in the face of it.
So he is found guilty of the murder of Shirley Williams, which, thank goodness. So he is sent to West Texas Regional. In May of 1993, Texas Monthly magazine publishes an article, See No Evil, and they ask the question, how does a perfect gentleman become a vicious murderer? Because he was never a perfect gentleman. He was killing baby animals as a teenager. Hello.
Yeah. And he was stealing and creating fraud and molesting people his entire life. So
right.
Maybe because the neighbors thought he was nice doesn't mean it, was all that much of much evidence.
Ugh. So there's a book called The Eyeball Killer. It was written by John Matthews, who was a Dallas police officer who, along with his partner Regina Smith, were key in identifying Charles Albright as a murderer. It was also written by newspaper journalist Christine Wicker. The documentary series Forensic Files discusses Albright's case in an episode titled See No Evil, which aired on June 14th of 2001. HBO released Albright's story, and it was titled The Collector, on the Autopsy series. That was episode 5, titled Autopsy, Dead Men Do Tell Tales, and that aired in 1998. ID Channel reported about the manhunt for Albright in the Evil Eye episode, Eyes Are My Prize, which aired on August 27th of 2013. One of my favorite podcasts ever, My Favorite Murder, also talked about him on one of their episodes. Oxygen Network aired The Mark of a Killer, An Eye for Murder, about the Albright case on February 10th of 2019. And Criminal Minds. We love it when they make it to Criminal Minds, as you mentioned, the unsub. Yep. The Eyes Have It. It was a season 5 episode called The Eyes Have It. He appears to be the inspiration for the unsub called Earl Bulford, who was an enucleator, a serial killer, who also had interest in taxidermy and was cruel to animals at a very young age.
Sounds like our guy.
Sounds just like him. So while incarcerated at West Texas Regional Medical Facility in Lubbock, Texas, Adam, this will make you happy. He passed away in August of 2020. So you don't have to worry about him. He's gone.
Oh yeah, and he still had to deal with COVID too. So double whammy.
But there you have the eyeball killer, Texas, the Texas Ripper. The Dallas Ripper and the Dallas Slasher. But I feel like the eyeball killer is the more appropriate title.
Yeah, it's way creepier than just mentioning their location.
Yeah.
So let me ask, did you pick this one specifically because he was arrested on this date in 1991?
I didn't even realize that it matched up perfectly.
I was giving you credit. I figured you had.
I mean, absolutely, I did. Yes, I completely planned that out.
Because as we're reading through, I'm like, really? Because we recorded this on Wednesday. We put it out on Friday, but it is March 23rd today. And this is the day he was arrested 31 years ago.
Yeah, I totally planned that.
Yeah, I'm just impressed.
Oh, but there you have the story of Charles Albright, the eyeball killer. Of course, sources for that will be on our website, asidebsidepodcast.square.site after the show.
Absolutely. So earlier I mentioned that I had one more thing I wanted to talk about that happened this week, but I was saving it until the A-side because it directly ties into the A-side because it caused me to actually have an A-side this week. Okay. And that was the beautiful experience that I had last night. After 2 years from when it was supposed to be, and a concert was supposed to have happened, but got canceled because of the shutdown. Elton John was in town at the XL Energy Center for his farewell Yellow Brick Road tour. And through a series of events, a friend had a ticket that they didn't have anyone for, and I was able to go. And it absolutely blew me away. It's the first time that I have been in an arena for a concert in 7 years. I prefer to go to like smaller venues, and it's just big arena shows can be a little bit overwhelming. But boy, was it awesome. And it brought back so many fun memories of 2019's Rocket Man starring Taron Egerton. So then I came home and I was like, wow, I want to watch that. It was such a good show. Literally 2 hours straight music, no nonsense. Even did the last encore. He did the duet with sort of a duet, but like I think her name is Dua Lipa. Has got a song out right now.
Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa. God darn it! I was so close. We'll just fix that in post. No, we won't. But it was kind of cool. Like there was this giant video screen behind him, and like he was playing his part, and then she would come on the video screen and sing her part, and like everybody's singing along, and it's just so nice to be able to be in a big space like that with a lot of people who all are having a great time. And it was just a very, I mean, understandably, Elton John is probably not the youngest crowd in the world, but there were people there of all ages. But everyone was just singing along and lots of swaying, and like sometimes we sat down, sometimes we didn't. And it was really great. Then I came home after the show. I was so wired that I literally walked home from downtown St. Paul. It was a decent night out, and I was just walking, and I was gonna grab an Uber, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep walking, and I'm walking and I'm singing, and it takes me about 40 minutes to an hour to get home because it's a good 3-mile walk. And I realized that I'm just walking the streets singing all the songs from the concert like at 11:30 midnight, and it was like, well, this is kind of perfect. I feel like if Elton wasn't asleep already at the St. Paul Hotel by the time we all got out of the building,
Right.
he had just been wandering around and driving and saw someone singing his songs, walking through the streets, he'd be like, well, that's pretty great. And I was so wired that I got home and I'm like, you know what? I have not watched Rocket Man since I saw it in the theater in 2019. And I really enjoyed it. It's not the easiest movie to watch because it doesn't sugarcoat a lot of things.
Well, and it goes in like a weird, I mean, it's a great movie, but it does go in like a weird kind of chronological.
There's like dream sequences kind of and imaginations and how the music is crafted in, and it bounces from place to place and time to time. It's not like this happened in 1954, this happened in 1960, this happened in 1970. It's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's really well crafted from a story. And I was super excited. I'm like, okay, I'm going to find it on one of the streaming services because, hey, the movie's been out for 3 years now. It's got to be on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or IMDb TV or one of YouTube or YouTube TV. Like I subscribe to all of these things, right? I should be able to find it. No, turns out it is not available with any subscription. The only way to watch it is to actually rent it, which feels like a very weird thing to do anymore. I cannot remember the last time I rented a movie. So it is available on Microsoft Store, Google Play, iTunes, Vudu, and it's relatively cheap. $2.99, $3.99, totally worth it.
Vudu. I forget about Vudu, but I watch Tubi, so I can't talk.
Yeah, I mean, it could be on Tubi, but I was like, oh, you know what? I really don't want to pay for it. I'll just wait. And then I started as I'm doing all this research to try to find where it is, I also stumbled on a few things that I didn't know about the movie that make me more excited to see it. And maybe I'll just bite the bullet and buy the $2.99. But, I prefer to either buy the DVD or find it on streaming. So maybe I'll just buy the DVD because I think it would be a good one to have. But one of the reasons that I remember it not being the world's most enjoyable watch is that it like doesn't sugarcoat anything. And evidently, according to the sources that I found that will all be available on our website after the show, that is because Elton John himself refused to sugarcoat anything.
Mm-hmm.
The movie was the script and the idea for the movie was being shopped around all the way back to 1997. And it took 20 years for it to get into production because movie studios wanted the happy, shiny version there was maybe hinting at drug use or kind of glossing over some of the family trauma or not talking about homosexuality because it was the 90s and early 2000s. And they just were like, we just want this to make money. We don't actually want to tell the story the way it wants to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And even up till the actual release of the movie, the producers, it was produced by Elton John and his husband. And then also, I'm going to get the right screen here. So David Furnish is his husband.
Mm-hmm.
And then Matthew Vaughn, who's been in a ton of stuff as well, also produced it. And they all had to fight studios because they were still trying to make edits and cuts and to turn it into a PG-13 movie. And one of the great quotes that I found is that Elton John himself, he's like, we I'm trying to get back to the throat here. I didn't live a PG-13 life, so I can't have a PG-13 movie. And I was like, oh, that's like super, super. Oh, here it is. But I just haven't led a PG-13 rated life. I didn't want a film packed with drugs and sex, but equally, everyone knows that I had quite a lot of both during the 70s and 80s. So there didn't seem to be much point in making a movie that implied that after every gig, I'd gone quietly back to my hotel room with only a glass of warm milk and a Gideon's Bible for company. Which I doubt anyone actually, that was their impression. Although, now that we're talking about it, last night, St. Paul Hotel is right next to the Xcel Energy Center here in St. Paul, and a lot of the big stars stay there. It's literally across the street. I have no idea if he's staying there. I'm pretty sure he was. They intimated that he was when we stopped at the St. Paul Hotel before to grab a snack before the show. But I'm sure he could have been home in 10, 15 minutes with his glass of milk and the Gideon's Bible if he wanted last night. And he made it well, because it was the most organized show that I've ever seen. He was on stage at 8:01. He was off stage, done with the encores by the time it was 10 o'clock. There was not any wasted motion. There wasn't a lot of like moving set pieces. It was just pure music for 2 hours, and definitely could see if he was very tired and went right back to the hotel. But so he fought for 20 years to get the film made, but to have it made the right way. And during that 20 years, I had never heard much about the production or the background, or even being mentioned as a thing that, sometimes we hear about movies where people like Nicolas Cage was cast as Superman in one movie, but it never got made. Or Henry Cavill has been like the second guy that we're like, oh, we were going to go with you, but we went with Christian Bale, or, like a million times before he became Superman. None of this stuff do I remember reading about the pre-production to get to Rocket Man in 2019. At one point, Justin Timberlake was considered for the role of Elton John.
I remember that.
It's all the way back into 2001. Elton John has a single that he releases with a video, and in the video, Justin Timberlake plays Elton John, and they thought he did such a good job they would consider him for the role as it was coming along. That's not a video that I remembered at all from 2001, so it'll be on our website. The link is on there. It is fun, not a song that I'm super familiar with, because it's 2001 Elton John, and I don't know that I even heard it on the radio. But after they had considered Timberlake, another decade goes by before they get to actually starting to cast the film, because they've got some people involved. And then this one surprised me even more than Timberlake, because Timberlake makes sense. He's a singer, he's done acting, you kind of see that coming. But the original British star that they had hired, and who even went into some practices and rehearsals, was Tom Hardy. Venom. And they said that he got it because of his acting, but he's never been a singer. And he ended up dropping out because it was so uncomfortable for him to try to sing. It was not something that he's ever done. It says, there was this, one of his quotes, he goes, "I'm not a singer. I really have no idea. I'm really trying because of Rocket Man, but it's hard to open my mouth in that way. I'm not really drawn towards singing and musicals and that stuff." If there's not a more Tom Hardy quote in the world, like the man is like, "I don't know about singing. I want to do this movie, but I don't know how to use my mouth like that." What do you mean? It's singing. Like, not everybody's a singer, but like, I've never heard anybody like act like it's a different way to use your mouth. So probably was for the best. He would have done an amazing job with the heavier parts of the script, the acting, but the performance of Taron Egerton is, in my opinion, something that really made the movie. And that is partly because of all the time and energy that Egerton put into learning the piano and the songs, and even going through the amazing costumes. There's something like 90 different costumes that they have him in throughout the show. The movie didn't even get made, wouldn't even have gotten made without Edgerton sitting down with a crew and they recorded 2 songs and sent them to the studio because the studio is like, nah, nobody's gonna believe this. It's not gonna work. Uh, then they actually saw the videos and said, oh shoot, this is actually really good. And the movie is very interestingly crafted. It's not clearly like tied with time and space. It kind of is very much a magical mystery tour in a way of his life, and is very raw and very clear about a lot of the challenges and things that Elton John has gone through. One amazing challenge that Edgerton talked about was you've got Elton John there, and there's not many times in life as an actor or a performer or voiceover anyway where the person that you are portraying is standing behind the camera. That had to be just a complete trip. Edgerton would read one article where he's like, there were some days where I had to ask if he could not be on the set, or I didn't want him on the set because when I'm there, creating the moment where he went through losing his virginity for the first time, I don't want to look up and see him right there watching me. It's like, that would be a lot of pressure. So
seriously.
Yeah, like Alexander Hamilton wasn't sitting there at rehearsals going like, that's not how we did duels. So that was a very unique experience. But Edgerton's performance is the standout part of the musical. And it was so cool last night, even within the concert, how many times visually they would bring scenes from the movie back into this, giant video board that's going on during various songs and stuff. And you could tell that there was definitely a love and pride. I mean, Elton John was part of the team that produced the movie, but it was so cool to see it pop back up. And I think that's why I was so excited to try to find it when I got home. So Edgerton ended up playing 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 6 to 8 weeks in pre-production, learning how to play the piano as Elton played the piano. So not only did he have to go through the, emotional part and the depth of the movie, and it can be a hard movie to watch, dealing with addiction and struggles and abuse and some really horrible interpersonal relationships, but he also had to learn how to play the piano so he'd look just like Elton John. And that's a combination of why it worked so well. And I am either going to buy it off of Amazon this week or I'm going to stream it. But it was a lot of fun to find out all this little information about it. I'm glad that it was Edgerton over Tom Hardy or Justin Timberlake. And I'm glad that Elton John fought for 20 years to have it be R-rated, because sometimes we need to see how hard things are. And it's never good, in my opinion, to have the challenges glossed over, because we should all learn from them in a way. And it was amazing to see him last night. You would not know the man is in his late 70s. He played nonstop for 2 hours. I was tired just from swaying and singing. I can't imagine how tired he would be. So check out Rocket Man if you have not, and try to imagine Tom Hardy using his mouth to sing, and how hard that would have been for him. So we turned it into a much better experience for us all. So
can I point something out?
Yeah.
That, I thought was pretty cool as well. So Elton John and Taryn became buds after Elton made a cameo appearance in The Kingsman.
Yeah. And I didn't realize, because I have not seen this movie other than I know I've seen like commercials and stuff for the second one that just came out. But I guess that Taron Egerton played Tommy the Gorilla in the original Sing movie and sang one of Elton's songs in that. And that also, that's how they first met. Then he sang one of his songs in this cartoon movie. And then here we are 5 years down the road. They're, best buds, and they're still working together and create this amazing piece of art. He did win. Edgerton won a Golden Globe for best performance. Did not even get nominated for the Academy Award that year, but it was the year right after Rami Malek's win for Bohemian Rhapsody. So it could be a bit of singer biopic fatigue, and it was a really loaded year. There were a lot. I mean, every year is exceptionally loaded, but to have I believe that was the year that Joaquin Phoenix won for the Joker. So it was, there were a lot of good performances that year. So,
Yes.
but it won a bunch of awards. I'm a little surprised that he didn't at least get nominated for the Academy Award, but it's one of those many times where the Golden Globes and the Academy can't get on the same page, which is kind of why it's fun to have two of them.
So when it comes to, I say biopic, I know biopic, whatever.
Yeah.
Where would you rate that in your list of biopics?
Oh man. And are we doing just musicians, or are we doing like political figures?
Just musicians.
Just musicians. I mean, Ray is really good.
Oof, man, that is a good one.
Ray is really, really good.
And that's another one who was around and while it was being filmed.
And involved. So that one, I think Ray would probably be first for me, and then it would be Rocketman, and then Bohemian Rhapsody. And if one of my best friends actually hears this, she's going to kill me for that because she loves Bohemian Rhapsody. But I would put it in third. And those are just the three that I can think of off the top of my head. I know there are at least 5 more musician biopics that I'm not remembering. So Coal Miner's Daughter would definitely not be in my top 5. So
I'm gonna say the Respect is not in there for me. When it came to the singing for like Jennifer Hudson, completely going off topic, but the singing was phenomenal, but the movie itself,
Walk the Line. Duh, forgot about that.
Oh yeah, Johnny Cash. Oh man.
See, this is the rabbit hole. You go down and it's like, well, okay, what do you think of first? And like for some reason, Ray just came to mind.
La Bamba will forever be in my top because it was one of the very first that I ever saw, and it exposed me to Richie Valens.
And Richie Valens, Big Bopper, and Buddy Holly were
yep.
Yeah, that on my magical bus trip last week, I stopped at that airport. So,
oh wow,
one of the stops was the airport that their plane took off from.
Ooh,
yeah, weird. So, you could tell it was very much like a 1950s small town county airport. There's no sign saying, "Hey, this is where everybody was." Oh, Selena.
And it just celebrated an anniversary too.
Yeah, Selena or the plane.
This Selena, the movie.
Selena. Okay. Yeah, they're Straight Outta Compton, which I mean, it's another really good one. Yeah, this is where we go down the rabbit hole, and
that should be your next one. You list
the Doors. Oh, the Doors with Val Kilmer. No, that's number one. That's number one.
Oh, that's a good one. And then wait, what's the one that's like the Doors? It's similar to the Doors, but it was in the 80s. Break on through to the others. Oh man.
I mean, also 8 Mile, which, yeah, there's so many. Sid and Nancy. Wow. All right, yeah, maybe I'll have to do this one because there are so many good ones that I did not come to the mind. Right, what's love got to do with it?
Okay, see, now I feel like we've got an A side for you.
We do. So what? I mean that we're just doing on-air show prep right now. That's what they call it.
Mm-hmm. What was I cannot think of it now. And it was supposed to be like kind of a Doors-ish type of biopic.
But it wasn't the Doors?
No. I know Break On Through was the Doors, but
yeah.
It had like a big hit song with it as well, and now I can't think of it. Oh well, if I think of it, I'll put it in our notes.
Yeah, or you'll text me at like 3 a.m.
I sure will, and you'll respond.
Yeah, I mean, come on, who doesn't respond to text? That's just rude.
Oh my gosh. All right, so there you go.
That's the A side.
That's the A side. And again, sources will be on our website, Adam.
A-side, B-side .square .site. That's
Good.
not correct. Is that correct?
B-side.square.site. Yeah.
I've said it like twice a week for almost 2 years and I still can't remember it.
Also, if you would like to help the podcast, thanks to my friend Jordan and sweet baby Wyatt, who just bought a couple of sweatshirts supporting the podcast.
Oh, was that the little kid in the sweatshirt? No, Adam, there was a different kid in the sweatshirt. Oh, it was a great picture of the kid in the sweatshirt.
Isn't it adorable?
We have so many people just tweet us pictures of their children in our merch that it's hard for me to keep track.
Yes, that's who that was. Sweet baby Wyatt. And you can see a picture on our Instagram. I did ask for permission before I posted that. I wouldn't just go posting people's babies without permission. But if you would like to, you can also support the podcast by getting some merch. We've got some amazing sweatshirts. We've got doggy scarves. We've got blankets, puzzles. We got coffee mugs, everything on the website.
Shower curtain.
Yep. Shower curtains. I mean, we've got tons of stuff. And if there's something that you like and we don't have, we can figure it out. Also, you can buy us a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/asidebsidepod. You can find us where, Adam? Where can you find us?
We're on Spotify. We are on Stitcher. We've got our own YouTube channel. You can follow us on all the socials. We have an excellent Instagram account with many followers. Our TikTok is blowing up. We're on Facebook. Our MySpace is under construction, but you can find us on all of
those. If you have a story that you'd like for us to cover, maybe you have a crime, maybe you have a TV show or a movie or that person from that show, let us know. You can email us. It's asidebsidepodcasts@gmail.com. All right, Adam, thanks.
Thank you, Brooke.